Today, we commemorate the end of our time at the Boston Hope Hospital, working with the Home Base Foundation, Partners Health and MGH, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Brigade, and the Massachusetts National Guard Joint Task Force Minutemen. Ladies and gentlemen, special guests attending today's ceremony include Major General Stephen Neary, Brigadier General Virginia Gaglio, Brigadier General Fox, Brigadier General Retired Jack Hammond, Captain Russel Webster, and Boston City Councilor Ed Flynn. We will begin with some remarks by retired Brigadier General Hammond. Brigadier General Hammond has 30 years in the military, is the Executive Director for Home Base Foundation, and the Site Commander for Boston Hope.
All right.
So I just want to follow up on what General Neary said a moment ago, because he was spot on. You all came at the nick of time, and that's really it. And in the military, you want to be there when you're needed, you know, and hit the line of departure on time, and you guys were there, meeting every expectation that we had. Boston Hope is really an innovative operation that depicts a much larger picture of our national response. So if anybody's been involved with disaster planning, we know that in every other type of disaster that this nation faces, whether it's a dirty bomb, whether it's a hurricane or a flood, we're able to exercise our national resources and project them with the full force of the United States into one area with phenomenal speed and power. We saw that in Hurricane Katrina, where within days, hundreds of thousands of service members, members of the Guard, active duty, FEMA, all sorts of national resources descended upon that site to fix it and get it, you know, recover it. The challenge, and out of all of the different catastrophic scenarios, the worst case scenario that we've looked at for the past 20 years is the pandemic, because it happens everywhere. There are no deep national resources that you can project, because all of them are serving where they are. If you look at our nation's military hospitals, those are the same people that serve each of those bases. There's some projectable assets. So for the military to pull together what they did was extraordinary, especially given the amount of time, because they have to kind of walk a fine line between pulling resources, because they can flip a switch very quickly and pull and mobilize and deploy a bunch of people, but there's a cause and effect to that. And suddenly you strip an area of its resources. So it took a great deal of time and thought to figure out how to put together these MTFs. From our perspective, it was the same thing. When they stood up Boston Hope, it was with the understanding that we wouldn't be able to pull from each of the hospitals to say, give us, you know, a bunch of respiratory therapists, we need 100 nurses, we need this, we need that. It just wasn't there, because each of those hospitals was fighting the good fight. They were already in the fight, and so we had to figure out creative solutions. And frankly, we were running out of time, and mainly time, to basically find the personnel to stand this site up. And with the great support of the state and the federal elements of FEMA, MEMA, and then reaching back into our Department of Defense, the Army Reserve, and the National Guard, we were able to turn the switch and get an MTF here, which, as you all know, you were able to hit the ground running, complete your RSOI, and then roll right into a pod and activate that pod, which enabled us to very quickly stand up and effectively treat folks, just as we were starting to pick up steam and getting an increased number of COVID-positive patients here. So much like the Spartans that came here, you answered the call, you came here, you took care of business, and now it's time to return home. I mean, each one of you has a job, a life, and a family back home. You were able to assist us in a time of need when the wave could have crested the bow of the ships, the hospitals here in the city. By having this release valve, the ability to see between the hospital side and the respite side more than 500 COVID-positive patients, which is remarkable. The only other field hospital in the world to see more was the field hospital in Spain, and they had one field hospital for the entire country. We've talked to our friends in London and across the United States, and nothing's come close to this. So you were truly part of something special, and as General Neary mentioned a moment ago, when you look back at the spring of 2020 and where you were and what you did, you made a difference. You made a big difference here. It was a mission success. We were able to take the pressure off the hospitals here in the city. They were able to focus on their jobs. We had a very specific phenotype of patient that we were targeted for, and we took care of them to the best of our abilities. You handled some very, very sick people and did it with both dignity and honor. And I just want to thank you on behalf of myself and the team here at Boston Hope for leaving your families, coming to our assistance in our time of need, and we wish you all the best moving forward. We have a little presentation that we'd like to present to your commander on behalf of us. If I could ask Michael and Dr. Boland to come up. And so it's a certificate of appreciation, an appreciation for your professionalism, hard work, and dedication to the mission at Boston Hope Field Hospital from April 11th to May 6, 2020. The 801st integration into the Boston Hope was seamless and proved to be mission essential for the success of this field hospital. The 801st provided critical, clinical, and direct logistical support that was crucial in the development of the field hospital during an unprecedented time in American history. The 801st efforts in the fight against COVID-19 will have a lasting impression with the patients and hospital staff at Boston Hope for years to come. The achievement of the soldiers in the 801st are greatly appreciated by the staff and leadership of Boston Hope, the City of Boston, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the United States. And it's signed by each one of us. Colonel Storkey.
Well, thank you, everyone. I know that we enjoyed the opportunities given us here. We enjoyed working with all of our colleagues, both in uniform and out of uniform. And we'd just like to thank you for making us feel welcome and not like guests in your house. Thank you very much. General Hammond has some coins that we're going to pass out to certain individuals. Again, as I said earlier, everyone did enough work to deserve something. We run out of coins at some point. So these are the folks that were picked either by recognition from civilian staff here and the roles that they filled. So Sergeant Elliott, please come up. Sergeant Elliott was one of our supply people. When they first arrived, the supply situation here was a little less organized than they would have liked, and both he and Sergeant Harrell did a lot to help straighten that situation out. All right. So next will be Sergeant Harrell, and it's almost the same vibe line. The two of them worked tirelessly to help change the supply situation from a small room by where the cafeteria is now to the organized area in the docking bay out back. Sergeant Dietrich. Sergeant Dietrich is one of our occupational therapists. I had numerous people talk to me about his drive, dedication, patient support. Sergeant First Class Cameron. Sergeant Cameron is one of the people that I don't think she's had a day off since she's been here. Her passion for taking care of soldiers, her position of rank made her truly an invaluable asset. Captain Baker. Captain Baker is, again, one of our operations folks. Occasionally took a Sunday off as he and Lieutenant Bridges rotated those. Same thing, hourly reporting was involved in many, many, many aspects. Captain McDermott.
All right.
Captain McDermott was our OIC, but also worked downstairs as a nurse on the floor. So she was double slotted, also helped out with her Spanish-speaking capabilities and taking care of that portion of our population.
Doing family practices within their communities when the attack occurred. We didn't know about jungle diseases. Penicillin was brand new. We were starting to learn about O blood and plasma and how you could go ahead and give it to somebody. This is 1941. And all of a sudden the crisis occurs. Again, war, we focus on Europe, but also in the Far East. In the Far East, that's where we found really your Marines and your Army fighting together. A fine example of how that was is post-Iwo Jima, post-Guam, and post-Saipan. On Saipan, as they were getting ready for the last battle of World War II in the Pacific, was Okinawa. And so on Saipan, they had over 7 full field medical hospitals of nurses standing by to eventually go to Okinawa. On Guam, that's where the Army had set up their field hospitals also. Actually, I got that backwards. You got the Army nurses on Saipan, the Navy nurses on Guam. And what was interesting is the Marines went to Saipan, the soldiers went to Guam, taken care of by sailors. Marines go into Saipan, taken care of by Army soldiers. So it doesn't matter what breed, what uniform you wear. We all believe in the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So we all took an oath. But you see that oath and the commitment of our nation as we come together. And so often it takes a tragedy to bring us all together. But it's remarkable when you test the cloth of this nation of what we can do together. So, when called upon, you did your duty. You don't need a coin. It's nice to have, but you did your duty. You represented your last name, you represented your service, you represented your nation. That's all we need. So, I'll finish this up. A little pharmacy bottle. It's not from my mortuary. In there is sand from Iwo Jima that I picked up back in 2012 when I went there and I was a colonel with my unit. And I've been there before. And as a Marine, that is obviously hollow ground. It's one of these places where you go, where you stand, and you get taken back. And so, this sand I'm going to give to Colonel Schlorke because he represents 801. But from a father of Marines, a Marine myself, and being in places in Fallujah, Ramadi, and all around the globe, and those Black Hawks would come in, and I'd have Marines that would be bleeding out, already intubated, because the Navy corpsman got them intubated, but I need to get them. The Black Hawks, I don't care how bad the sandstorm would be, the Black Hawks and those warrant officers would come in, they'd pick up my Marines, and their chances of survival went straight up. And I just use that example of what we will do for each other when called upon. It's very personal to all of us. And so as you look back upon what you did in the spring of 2020, and you may be called upon again soon to go someplace else in the globe, just know that what you bring to the table when your nation calls is a valuable skill, but just as important, it's an iron will to do well. Do well for each other, do well for our nation, and do well for your family name. That being said, I will provide, again, it's a letter of appreciation. You'll get this all in your record books. They'll scan it. You can do that smart technology, by God. They'll scan that. But again, a lot of you probably don't have Marine stuff in your record book, but you know, it's got 2 stars on it. It's got second. It's got the what we call the EGA, Eagle Globe and Anchor. So to us, you know, it means a lot when we get ahead and serve others. And so that being said, Councilor, you come on up here. I'll give you some sand from Iwo Jima.
Thank you again, Major General Neary. This is incredibly meaningful. Well, that is long.
It is long, that's why I didn't read it.
All right.
You got the Spartan thing, it was good.
Yeah, all right. I won't read this as well, but please, it'll be available. Come by.
No, we're going to scan it, we're going to send it to their books. So you get.
That's right, that's right. All right, thank you very much, sir.
All right, press. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now pleased to welcome Captain Russel Webster. Captain Russel Webster is the FEMA Region 1 Regional Commander overseeing the Northeast region.
Thanks very much. I'm often asked these days by the media and other luminaries, what's the difference between this disaster and many others that my agency has been involved in. And General Hammond mentioned it, and I want to just put a sharper edge on it. I tell people it's scale, scarcity, and susceptibility. On scale, we've never had in the history of our 41 years of it as an organization, all 50 states, 5 territories, 43 tribal nations, and all 574 tribal nations involved in a single disaster. That by itself generates the scarcity that General Hammond talked about in terms of resources. Even during the time of Harvey, Irma, and Maria, when we gave out 10 times as much money in 2 years and services in 2 years than we did in the previous 37 years, have we faced a circumstance like this. The other piece of this has to do with susceptibility. Never before have we sent people, except the military, into a circumstance where they themselves are susceptible to the disaster that we're all facing. So keep that in mind. As a fellow historian, I will tell you, I did a little bit of research about the Spanish flu from 1918 and its connectivity to Boston. So I wanted you to have that and know that your moment in history, as defined by the last several weeks, is going to be monumental. So, history tells us that the devastating Spanish flu came ashore here at the Commonwealth Pier in Boston in August 1918, when 3 U.S. soldiers returning from France made the sick list. The Army Medical Department, one of the forerunners of the Urban Augmentation Medical Task Force, swiftly swung into action against this new and deadly unseen enemy. As one officer recalled, and this is remarkable, prevention measures included daily inspections and temperature taking, patient isolation, face masks and gowns for attendants, good ventilation, screening between beds, prohibition of indoor gatherings, nose and throat sprays for the healthy, and experimental vaccines. By the War Department's most conservative count, the flu sickened 26% of the Army, more than 1 million men, and killed almost 30,000 before they even headed to the Western Front. The military's medical teams had tamed typhoid, but more American soldiers, sailors, and Marines would succumb to influenza and pneumonia than would die on Europe's battlefield of the Great War. In the end, more than 1 in every 4 American suffered some form of the Spanish flu. Worldwide, more than 50 million people died, more than 3 times the number of soldiers and civilians claimed by the Great War. Today, we're here to honor an outstanding example of the modern-day UAMTF with 85 soldiers, including doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and respiratory therapists, sent into battle against yet another deadly enemy, COVID-19. When we put out the call for more medical staff to bolster our healthcare capacity, one of the first to answer that call was UAMTF 801-1 from Fort Sheridan, Illinois. We know many of you left your own practices, jobs, and families to assist in this civilian effort. You mobilized quickly and fully and integrated into the operations at the alternate care site in the BCAC, so-called Boston Hope. And you did offer us hope. These professional team players also showed courage, strength, and tenacity, much as those military heroes did here in Boston more than a century ago. As a team, you treated more than 100 patients, no doubt preventing countless more fatalities. You carried on and persevered to complete your mission and add to your own distinguished history. While the ongoing efforts by federal, tribal, state, and local partners continue, we say goodbye to you. On behalf of a grateful nation, thank you and well done.
Lastly, we welcome Brigadier General Virginia Gaglio. Brigadier General Gaglio is the Chief of Staff and Air Component Commander and the Dual Status Commander presiding over Massachusetts Title X troops.
Morning, everybody. So, thankfully I'm here last week of the day, so you can relax. When you showed up Saturday morning, earlier than I expected, right, on the 10th of April, and it was quite an event. And we got you over to the Aloft Hotel, and your first day here on the ground was the 11th of April, Easter Sunday. And Easter Sunday is really, truly a good news story and the symbol of hope for everyone. And you brought the hope to Boston Hope the day that you arrived. And you definitely, as the Joint Task Force Commander for Joint Task Force Minutemen, made me take a pause and breathe deeper because I knew we had it, right? When you showed up, I knew we had it and we were going to be able to support Boston Hope and stand up the Boston Convention Center, and we were going to be able to serve the city of Boston if things got worse. And you did. You saw well over 100 patients. The neat thing about the 801-1 is that you may be out of Illinois, but you're across the nation from 8 different states. You all deployed from 8 different states and came together as a team and deployed here. And one of the things that I love about being a National Guardsman and part of the reserve component, and you as a reservist, is that we have this whole other story when we're not wearing the uniform. We serve in other capacities, and you all have stories in what you do. You might be a student, you might have your own company, you might be a medical doctor or a nurse or a medical clinician somewhere else, or you might be doing something completely different than what your MOS is as an Army reservist. And that all makes us stronger when we have multiple talents. We can come in, you adapt, you overcome, and you get the job done. And you did that, and you were at the core of Joint Task Force Minuteman in providing domestic ops and support to civil authorities. And our job when we're serving, we're employing in our own country, is to alleviate human suffering and protect human life. And that is at the core of what the 801-1 did over the last couple of weeks. So I just want to say thank you for that from the bottom of our heart. And now you are all Minutemen because you have served the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the nation's first, and the birthplace of the National Guard and the military for our country. And you're all part of Minuteman. So with that, today, I'm going to give, each one of you are going to receive the Massachusetts Emergency Service Ribbon that you can wear. It'll be part of your record. And it is only for people in the Massachusetts National Guard or people who serve the Commonwealth under the governor for work. And this is truly a historic event. We've heard about history from a couple of our speakers today, and I love General Neary's history lessons. It's been a real joy to work with him over the last couple of weeks. But you're now part of history. This is the largest task force the Massachusetts National Guard has ever stood up in modern history. And it is the only task force that has had both active duty, reserve, and National Guard troops all a part of a bigger thing. You're part of a bigger movement within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, alleviating human suffering.
Thank you so much for your service.
Private Amaya.
Humanitarian service medal too.
Captain Ayler.
So I look at getting two humanitarian service plus this, so that's good.
Lieutenant Babula.
Cost a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Baker. Major Barnes.
Thank you for your service. Awesome. It's a pleasure to serve.
Specialist Barnett.
Thank you so much.
Sergeant Ballou.
Special Trainer, thank you so much.
Specialist Bell.
Oh, take this.
Specialist Blanchard. Sergeant Brooks.
Go, take this. Get this. Sergeant Brooks, thank you so much.
Major Hudak.
Thank you so much.
Sergeant Cameron.
Sergeant Cameron. Fantastic leadership.
Major Carberry.
Did you get a birthday? There you go. Barbara, thank you so much.
Colonel Carson.
Colonel Carson, it was a pleasure working with you.
Specialist Giubretta.
Specialist Giubretta. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Specialist Champion.
Pleasure to serve with you.
Lieutenant Clark.
Lieutenant Clark?
Specialist Coctacon.
Take that, sorry. Yeah, it's awkward. All right. Thank you so much.
Major Conlon.
Thank you so much.
Specialist Connery.
Specialist Connery, thank you so much.
Private Daughtry.
Oh, I think you got two. Sorry about that. They're up. Do that. You're welcome.
Captain DeMarco.
Hey, nice to see you.
Great job.
Specialist Diaz.
Specialist Diaz, thank you for your leadership.
Sergeant Dietrich.
Sergeant Dietrich? Oh, you're welcome. Pleasure to serve.
Sergeant Dixon.
Dixon? Pleasure to serve.
Sergeant Drake.
Pleasure to serve.
Major Iser.
Mr. Iser, thank you so much for your leadership.
Sergeant Elliott.
Elliot, pleasure.
Lieutenant Phillip.
Lieutenant Phillip, thank you.
Specialist Frazier.
Thank you so much.
Sergeant Garcia.
Sergeant Garcia. All right, you're welcome.
Sergeant Gray.
Sergeant Gray, thanks for your leadership.
Major Groyle.
Cool. Pleasure. Thank you.
Captain Hall.
Captain Hall, thank you for your leadership.
Sergeant Hamilton.
Hi, Sergeant Hall. Thank you for your service.
Lieutenant Colonel Hanson.
Colonel Hanson, thank you so much.
Sergeant Harrell.
Sergeant Harrell, thank you for your leadership.
Specialist Hebron.
Specialist Brown. Thank you so much.
Lieutenant Colonel Henderson.
Colonel Henderson, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure serving with you.
Private Jenkins.
Private Jenkins, thank you for your service.
Sergeant Keenan.
Sergeant Keenan, thank you for your service.
Great job, Sergeant.
Captain Curian.
Captain Curry, thank you so much. Thank you for your service.
Specialist Lasley.
Specialist Lasley, thank you for your service. Take a break.
Specialist Lathan.
Congratulations, thank you.
Specialist Lee, thank you for your service.
Specialist Lathan, thank you.
Captain Lewis.
Captain Lewis, thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership.
Lieutenant Colonel Majorak.
Colonel Majorak, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Captain Marino.
Captain Marino, thank you so much. Absolutely.
Specialist Masterson.
Thank you.
Specialist Masterson, thank you for your leadership. You're welcome.
Thank you, Specialist.
Captain McDermott.
Captain McDermott, nice seeing you again. Thank you so much for your leadership. It was
Private
great
Medina.
Ma'am, thank you.
Private Medina, thank you so much for everything you've done.
Private Miller.
Private Miller, thank you for your service.
Captain Moore.
Private Miller, thank you.
Captain Moore, thank you for your leadership and service.
Sir, thank you.
Specialist Morrell.
Specialist Morrell, thank you so much. You're welcome.
Captain Mosby.
Captain Mosby, thank you for your leadership. Appreciate it.
Ma'am, thank you.
Captain Moses.
Captain Moses, thank you for your service.
Sir, thank you.
Specialist Mueller.
Specialist Mueller, thank you for your service.
Great job.
Major Nash.
Major Nash, thank you for your leadership.
Captain Neuschwander.
Sir, thank you.
Captain, thank you for your service.
Specialist Wynn.
Specialist Wynn, thank you so much.
Specialist, thank you.
Specialist Nieto.
Specialist Nieto, thank you for your service.
Captain Patton.
Thank you very much.
Captain, thank you so much. Excellent.
Private First Class Powell.
Thank you, sir.
Specialist Powell, thank you so much. You're welcome.
Great job.
Specialist Ramos.
Specialist Ramos, thank you for your service.
Sergeant Rodriguez.
Sergeant Rodriguez, thank you for your leadership.
Captain Rose.
Captain Rose, thank you so much for your leadership. Oh, absolutely.
Ma'am, thank you.
Colonel Schlorky.
I think you earned it. All right, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Sergeant Showblocker.
Sergeant Schlobocker, thank you so much for your service.
Major Sheridan.
Son, first class, thank you very much.
Major Sheridan, thank you for everything you've done.
Major Smith.
Thank you.
Major Smith, thank you so much for your service. Absolutely.
Specialist Stoll.
Nice to meet you too.
Ma'am, thank you.
Specialist Stoll, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your service.
Lieutenant Colonel.
Sergeant Harrell, thank you for your leadership.
Specialist Hebron.
Great job.
Specialist Brown, thank you so much.
Lieutenant Colonel Henderson.
Colonel Henderson, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure serving with you.
Private Jenkins.
Private Jenkins, thank you for your service.
Nice job.
Sergeant Keenan.
Sergeant Keenan, thank you for your service.
Great job, Sergeant.
Captain Curian.
Captain Curry, thank you so much. Thank you for your service.
Specialist Lasley.
Specialist Lasley, thank you for your service. Take a break.
Specialist Lathan.
Congratulations, thank you.
Specialist Lee, thank you for your service.
Specialist Lathan, thank you.
Captain Lewis.
Captain Lewis, thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership.
Lieutenant Colonel Majorak.
Colonel Majorak, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Captain Marino.
Captain Marino, thank you so much. Absolutely.
Specialist Masterson.
Thank you.
Specialist Masterson, thank you for your leadership. You're welcome.
Thank you, Specialist.
Captain McDermott.
Captain McDermott, nice seeing you again. Thank you so much for your leadership. It was
Private
great.
Medina.
Ma'am, thank you.
Private Medina, thank you so much for everything you've done.
Private Miller.
Private Miller, thank you for your help.
Captain Moore.
Private Miller, thank you.
Captain Moore, thank you for your leadership and service.
Sir, thank
Specialist Morrell.
Specialist Morale, thank you so much. You're welcome.
Captain Mosby.
Captain Mosby, thank you for your leadership. Appreciate it.
Ma'am, thank you.
Captain Moses.
Captain Moses, thank you for your service.
Sir, thank you.
Specialist Mueller.
Specialist Mueller, thank you for your service.
Great job.
Major Nash.
Major Nash, thank you for your leadership.
Captain Neuschwander.
Sir, thank you.
Captain, thank you for your service.
Specialist Wynn.
Specialist Wynn, thank you so much.
Specialist, thank you.
Specialist Nieto.
Specialist Nieto, thank you for your service.
Captain Patton.
Thank you very much.
Captain, thank you so much.
Private First Class Powell.
Thank you, sir.
Specialist
And then also to meet incredible people along the way. And I truly believe that's what we've been able to accomplish here. So, if anybody's ever out in Indiana, you want to stop by, you're always welcome. All right. Truly, for all my soldiers out there, great job. Job well done. We do have some things to finish up, as General Neary said. The mission's not complete. We're done with this phase of it. I would like, after we're all through with this ceremony, my soldiers just come back here. This is one of the few opportunities I have to put out group without doing the texts. So, mingle, but about 20 minutes, if I can have my folks back here, I'd appreciate that. Again, thank you everyone. It truly has been an honor and a pleasure to serve with each and every person here. Thank you.